Greetings and welcome to this Tenebrae drama coming to you from Forest City United Methodist Church, Facing the Shadows. On this day we gather to remember.
We open our hearts and minds to relive the pain and victory which have become for us the doorway to the eternal.
We recognize the shadows which encroach on every life, and we meditate on that one moment in history when the shadows seemed to extinguish the light entirely.
We come in awe and in worship, for the darkness has never and will never overcome the light, revealed in the human life and death of Jesus Christ.
And so let us recollect the last meal that Jesus shared with his friends. On the night of his agony and arrest, the followers of Christ gathered with him around a supper table as they were eating. He took a loaf of bread and said to them,
"This is my body, broken for you. Take and eat this, and remember me."
When the meal was complete, he took the cup of wine and he said to them,
"This is my blood shed for you. Take and drink this, and remember me."
And so we do this, now and always, in grateful and loving memory of the one who gave himself to us.
The shadow of betrayal, Judas. I don't know when it happened, but things changed somehow. At first he was strong, confident, outspoken. I had such high hopes. Finally, a leader to throw off the Romans. But just when the time was right, at the height of his popularity, he withdrew. He became quiet, almost introspective. I thought a bit of a push would help him to reach for greatness. You know, pass on a bit of information about his movements and make a bit on the side for me, and then watch him rise to victory when they came for him. Only it didn't work out like that. He let them take him. "You'll betray me, Judas," he said. I wonder how he knew. I thought I'd been discreet, but I didn't expect it to turn out the way it did. Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
The shadow of inner agony. Salome, the mother of James and John. He was such a unique boy, my nephew, cousin to my sons, James and John, but more of a friend to them really, and to me. He was always caring, always serving, always putting others first. I remember when I asked him if my boys could sit on the thrones with him in his kingdom, one on his left and one on his right. "Salome," he said to me, "the great ones in God's kingdom are the ones who serve. Even I have come to serve and to lay down my life." I felt rather humbled that day. It's incredible that in his time of agony, praying all alone, the ones he loved so well couldn't serve him in return, not for one short hour. There they were, my sons and Peter, all asleep, while Jesus prayed, cried and sweated blood, and none of the others of us were any better. Alone he prayed, "Take this cup away from me, but not my will, Father, yours be done." Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
The shadow of desertion, John. That was a dark night. We didn't expect those terrible things. Perhaps we should have foreseen it, prepared for it. Maybe then we would have reacted differently and stood with him through it all. But we didn't understand. So there we were, Peter, James, and me, fast asleep, oblivious to his pain. And suddenly he's waking us up, and there is Judas, and lights and swords and soldiers, and they're arresting Jesus. We were no match for them, and they would have taken us too. We were terrified, and so we ran away, all of us, and left him to face their swords alone. Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
The shadow of denial, Peter. What was I thinking? I expected so much more from myself. Oh, at the table it was easy. When Jesus talked about being betrayed and arrested and dying, I was angry and protective. I'll fight for you, Lord, I said. I'll die for you. I thought he was just frightened and emotional when he replied, "No, Peter. Before the cock crows 3 times, you will deny even knowing me." Deny him? I wouldn't have thought that possible. But that was then. Now I know it's true. When it comes finally down to it, I couldn't fight for him. I couldn't die for him. I couldn't even answer the question, "Yes, I know him, I follow him, I believe in him." And as they led him away, he looked at me. Those eyes. I expected anger and judgment, but there was only love. In his eyes, there was only ever love. Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
The shadow of accusation, Mary Magdalene. People were curious about my devotion to Jesus, but it's easy to understand, really. I lived with accusations all my life. Adulterer, prostitute, madwoman, evil, possessed. They said it all, and more. And much of it was true. But Jesus, he didn't accuse. He didn't judge. He didn't make any demands or require anything. For the first time, someone saw past the pain and brokenness to my soul and gave me the freedom I longed for. Of course I was devoted. Ironic that the one who accepted and included all without accusation should be forced to hear lies about himself, should stand alone and face all those pointed fingers. The one whose only crime was acceptance, sentenced to death on the force of false accusations by the ones he sought to love and heal. Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
the shadow of mockery, Thomas. Somehow I've developed a reputation for doubt and questioning, a little unfairly, I think, but I do confess to being confused and uncertain, especially at the end. I mean, he healed the sick, he raised the dead, and the whole nation was eating out of the palm of his hand, and then suddenly they were shouting, "Crucify him!" With all his power, he just stood there. And then when the soldiers mocked him, he took it all. They stripped his body, torn from the terrible flogging, and pretended to worship him as king, with a crown of hard Judean thorns. They hit him, spat on him, pulled out his hair and beard. How was I to understand this? He could have snuffed them all out in a heartbeat, but he didn't. He just let them mock. O Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
The shadow of death. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Should I have known that moment would come? There'd been death threats from when he was a baby, and he'd spoken about his death more than once. Maybe I should have seen it, but nothing can prepare a mother to watch her child die. I don't know how I got through that day. My son, sentenced to crucifixion, the slowest and most agonizing death, executed with thieves. My son, who had done nothing wrong. And in the face of it all, he forgave them. He forgave all of us. Then he cried out, "It is finished." And as I watched the last breath leave his body, it was like me dying up there. Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy. If I was unprepared for Jesus' death, I was completely flabbergasted by what would follow.